Y'all better sit down for this, because word on the streets is that Nicki Minaj just F'd for divorce from her husband of 5 years, Kenneth. Petty fans have been begging her to dump Kenneth for years now. But this situation is actually a hot mess, because allegedly Kenneth has been putting hands on Nicki and controlling her with drugs. Y'all, it looks like Nicki is sick and done with this being puppet situation and being treated bad by Kenneth. And not only did she file for divorce, but she allegedly filed for a restraining order for the violence. Y'all better sit down for this and hold on to your baby hairs, because this situation is worse than we suspected, y'all. The craziest stuff is happening right now in 2024, because the streets are saying that Nicki Minaj has secretly F'd for divorce of 5 years to Kenneth Petty. And get this, it's not a simple divorce, because allegedly there's some divvy allegations, and she is allegedly seeking a restraining order against him. Now, I'm not trying to be the bad guy here, but fans saw this coming a mile off. It has nothing to do with Nicki, really, but Kenneth and his passion and against. When Kenneth and Nicki first got married, fans were overjoyed for her because we thought that she was living her fairy tale with her long-awaited happy ending. Their love story got even cuter when we found out that Nicki and Kenneth go way back to their teenage years growing up in the New York borough of Queens, and even more, they were high school sweethearts. They lost touch for a while, but they ended up getting married in 2019 in a super secret ceremony. Fans not only found out about her big day when Nicki dropped a surprise bomb on Instagram, plating their Mr. and Mrs. mugs and rocking bride and groom snapbacks. Fans were happy for her, but it didn't really make a lot of sense at the time, because Nicki has always been loud and bold with her celebrations. So why did she decide to keep it so secret of a wedding? Although it didn't make a lot of sense, then looking back now, I think we can all agree that we kind of know why she hid the marriage. She suspected that fans wouldn't approve of Kenny because of his very controversial and questionable past. And she was definitely right about that. Back in '95, Kenneth got in serious trouble for allegedly saying his ex-girlfriend he ended up doing is years of time. And afterwards, he was put on a supervised release program from 2013 to 2018. The New York State folks labeled him as a level 2 offender, hinting that he might slip up again. It all traces back to '95, when he supposedly used weapons to coerce his ex into, well, you know, saw. But there's even more, y'all. In July 2019, after relocating to California, when he got married to Nicki, Kenneth got arrested for not registering as an offender. He had to pay $20,000 to get out, and considering the fact that we still don't know what he does for work, apart from being Mr. Nicki Minaj, I think we can all agree that Nicki probably paid that fine for him. But here's something that didn't make any sense. Why didn't Nicki nudge him to register knowing the risk? And if that wasn't bad enough, a year later in 2020, news came out that he was looking at up to 10 years behind bars and a lifetime of supervised probation. Now, one source claimed the problem that the courts will have is okay, I see that. But the problem is, just because he's famous now doesn't mean he was famous when he got the charge. He wasn't famous when he was first required to register. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he didn't do it now. To say the fans were shook about this would be an understatement, because everybody was losing their minds. I mean, the thought of the #1 rapist in the world getting married to someone like Kenneth was wild. There was a lot of think pieces, some fans over this, like this person who said, "I wish I felt bad, but I don't. She's mean to other women, and she defended her brother at his saw child. Then you married this man. You're the company you keep." Makes you wonder. Now, for some context, Nicki's brother has been arrested for saying his stepdaughter, who was only 12 at the time. Even worse, during the trial, Nicki wrote a letter defending her brother and asking the judge to be lenient in his sentencing. Even after it was proven that he saw the girl, he was eventually sentenced to prison. And Nicki was left looking embarrassed. So when you think about it, it's not all that surprising that she ended up with a man like Kenneth. That also didn't help that Nicki continuously defended Kenneth against the internet. She wrote he was young, she was young and in a relationship, but go off internet. You can't run my life, you can't even run your own life. Now, we love Nicki Minaj, but this is not okay. Did she really mean that it's okay to be intimate without your partner's consent? Because her husband was with the victim back then, it went downhill from there. In July 2022, Petty got slapped with a year of house arrest for failing to register as an offender in 2019 when he moved to Cali with Nicki. And on top of that, he had to cough up a hefty $500,000 fine. And y'all want to bet who paid for that too? Nicki. That's what we rhyming a day. So instead of hitting the road and going on tour, Nicki, he had to stay home with her man, y'all. And it looks like Nicki was to pull out all the stops to defend Kenneth, but fans weren't buying it, especially after learning that Nicki allegedly tried to hush up her husband's victim by throwing money at her. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. When Kenneth's ex, known as Jennifer, spoke up by taking legal action against Petty, Nicki's team apparently went into overdrive trying to silence her. They reportedly dangled hundreds of thousands of dollars in front of her to keep quiet, but Jennifer wasn't having it. She came prepared with solid evidence to push back against Nicki's attempts, even revealing that she'd been in touch with the U.S. Marshals, who claimed to have uncovered concrete proof regarding the events of 1995. Yell, the drama of it all. And this made Nicki look even worse. She got dragged for filth, with some people making some solid points. This person said no matter how much you like Nicki's music, it's wrong to sweep her actions under the rug. She's literally accused victims of lying and even tried to buy their silence. You can still like her music, But you don't need a degree in morality and ethics from Harvard to understand that Nicki is in the wrong here for once. TS need to take off their rose-colored glasses and hold their faves accountable now. As other fans have pointed out, Nicki doesn't really have an issue working with men who have been accused of SAI, because she had worked with a convicted offender and rapper Tekashi 69 in October 2015 when he was 1969, pleaded guilty to using a third 18-year-old in a performance. Nicki quickly defended him and said, "I wanted him to perform with me at the VMAs. When I know somebody, there's nothing you can tell me about him. That's just how it is, y'all." Nicki really needs to get some handling on her social media and her relationships because she'd be going off and making herself look even worse. Well, following Nicki's marriage to Petty, it appeared that her music career and album sales took a nosedive despite welcoming a precious baby boy into the world. It seems like she put her career on hold to be a full-time mom and stand beside Kenny. Instead of being the public figure she once was, she opted for frequent Instagram live sessions from home. The shift was quite odd and out of character for Nicki, especially given her usual message of empowerment and pursuing your dreams no matter what. But back in September 2019, Nicki very bluntly teased her retirement from the music industry to the Shade Room and shortly after made the announcement to her 22.2 million Twitter followers saying, "I've decided to retire and have my family. I know you guys are happy now." Well, horrified Nicki fans responded in with devastating no's, and some even asking her why she couldn't be a mom and a rapper at the same time. But she seemed determined to be over and done with the music thing to protect her husband. She later relented and deleted the tweet. She also made a new tweet where she said, "I'm still right here, still madly in love with you guys. And you know that in hindsight, this should have been a Queen Radio discussion. And it will be. I promise you guys will be happy. No guest, just us talking about everything." The tweet was abrupt and insensitive. "I apologize, babe." In a later interview with Billboard, Nicki backtracked on her retirement plans by saying, "I love music and interacting with fans, so I can't really see taking myself completely away, but I want to be open to other possibilities in my life. I do believe that is important to become a woman outside of the magnifying glass. I have to make sure that I'm well-rounded as a human being." And at this point, fans started to wonder if there was something else going on behind the scenes, because she was blowing out hot and cold. This was where the speculation started that she was supposedly being controlled and manipulated by Kenneth, because she was coming off as unstable. Nicki then accused her fans of hurting her feelings by being upset when she claimed that she was retiring. She said, "I didn't know my fans would act like that with the tweet. It hurt my feelings, because I feel like the way I did it was maybe insensitive to my fans. But I didn't think people were going to take it, and I didn't know it was going to be that big of a deal, so that's why I deleted it." Things got even worse when Kenneth's 1995 Saw victim Jennifer Huff spoke out and claimed that Nicki and Kenneth were harassing her and were also making their friends do the same. Jennifer also claimed that she has been unable to work and has had to move homes because of the harassment. As if that situation couldn't get any worse, Jennifer dropped a bombshell claiming that Nicki and Kenneth enlisted someone named Black to offer her $20,000 to lie and say Kenneth never mistreated her, essentially trying to buy her silence. I remember this detail because it's crucial for what's coming next. So Jennifer rightfully took a legal action against Nicki and Kenneth because, let's face it, she didn't sign up for any of this. Let me tell you, the courtroom drama, baby, it's been a hot mess. I've seen my fair share of wild celebrity scandals, but this one is up there. You know how these celebs can get into some crazy stuff. But anyways, Nicki, Kenneth, and their legal team dropped the ball by missing the deadline to respond to the lawsuit. Jennifer and her lawyers seized the opportunity to request a default judgment from the judge, asking for a whopping $20 million. Now, for those not familiar, a default judgment happens when one party in a lawsuit fails to respond, prompting the judge to make a decision without hearing their side of the story. Now, Jennifer was completely within her rights to request a default judgment, but both Nicki and Kenny filed motions to have the default judgments against them cancel. Now, before we can even continue, you need to know that Nicki and her husband were sued separately, and they even had separate lawyers. So they're not bound together legally in this situation at all. But anyways, Nicki's default judgment was canceled. But Kenneth wasn't, and he is not taking that lying down. He has now responded to the default judgment, and let me